So before we move into the next chapter and take a look at some exciting stuff like replacing your performances with MIDI synths, mixing pianos and pads and strings and things like this, I wanted to show you a quick tip that's related to the dynamics section on the console. Now, the dynamics section on the console is modeled after SSL and modeled on an SSL, just as every other part of the console is. And this dynamics section, and I'm specifically talking about the compressor section, can be seen as quite tame, and it can be a great transparent workhorse effect. So let's just take a look at it on the drums, for example. I've got the drum group soloed here, and I've got some sort of pretty tame compression settings. And as we change the threshold and up the ratio and maybe drive it with a little gain, we're going to get sort of, 2 or 3 decibels of reduction. And let's time the release a little. Okay, so we've got some nice compression going on there, and that appears to be pushed pretty hard. Now we can, have a fast attack to push things a little harder, and we can have a peak sense on as well. And still, even though we've got a lot of compression there, it's still pretty organic. It would be great for a parallel compression channel. But how do we smash the hell out of things with this compressor? Because some other vintage compressors, they're very easy to drive very hard. Now, of course, we could up the ratio, and we get a really, really heavy compressed effect with all these, features on the fast and the peak sense. But let's turn these off. And we're getting a pretty smashed effect there. But the best way to do it is to turn the release down to 0. Turn the threshold all the way, turn the ratio all the way, and then drive gain into it. Now, this is a trick used on SSL consoles by SSL engineers, and it's been replicated perfectly here. As we drive gain into it, we get this crazy smash sound, and it peaks right into the red. And it's like a sucking effect. And this is one way to get really heavy compression effects right out of the SSL in the console. Now, this obviously isn't going to work as your main compression effect on your main drum channel. So let's turn it off, go back to the rack, and I'm going to take off all the saturation and compression in our parallel drum group. Now I'm going to solo our parallel drum group, and I'm going to apply this technique onto the parallel. There's our smash channel. There's without it. We've got our sort of dynamic, natural, dry sound. And we can just add loads of life. I think we're peaking our master channel here a little bit. Great. And it's just a really easy way of adding extra life and energy and density to a signal. So use this in conjunction with parallel processing, and as a real alternative to the vintage compressors and the M-class compressor that we see in the rack extension collection that we'll be looking at in forthcoming tutorials. But don't just see the compressor on the console as a tame creature, because it can be pretty intense, and it can produce these full-on smashed compressor effects, and that's how you do it. And next up, we're going to take a look, like I said, at mixing keys and pianos, strings, synthesizers, and we're even going to get into replacing your lead parts and in your mix with external MIDI instruments.